Welcome, everyone, to our talk about menopause. And today we are especially jumping into the weight gain that happens that nobody talks about, belly fat in particular, and why your old tricks for addressing these stubborn spots no longer work. So, my name is Stephanie McCulix. I'm a medical doctor specializing in OBGYN for the last 25 years and now focusing more on women's health, integrative, and holistic solutions. So, we are so happy, Dr. Carrie Barlow and myself, to talk to you about this topic. And I'm going to dive right in, and then we'll hear from Dr. Barlow as well. Okay, so when we're going through menopause and perimenopause, hormones start to decline, and they start to decline at different rates. So we have more or less kind of this steady decline of progesterone. And Dr. Carey actually has a slide that illustrates this. But what's happening with estrogen, especially in the perimenopause time, is more like this up and down. So we were just cracking up at the slide earlier because in the perimenopause section, it like the picture is worth 1,000 words, and it definitely explains a lot about why people feel the way they do. So you can see in the fertility years, our progesterone and our estrogen buckets or tanks, so to speak, are nice and full. And there's plenty to go around, right? Plenty to support our metabolism, plenty to offset any fluctuations in cortisol levels or even in blood sugar. It's kind of like a very forgiving time then. And then in perimenopause, we have more of the progesterone that starts to decline, and the estrogen is just doing crazy stuff all over the place. And then in menopause, both hormone sets gradually decline together. And you see it in a way, menopause is almost a smoother time than perimenopause. And I think this graph really demonstrates that nicely. And so some of the problems here is when you have that relative imbalance of estrogen to progesterone, it can affect your appetite. It in and of itself can affect your stress. But a big thing it does is it impacts your insulin resistance. So it increases insulin resistance. So what does that mean? That means your pancreas has to secrete more insulin just to get the job done of processing glucose. So our bodies are mainly dealing with proteins, fats, and then glucose. And so when this process is not happening as efficiently, you're going to have more glucose floating around in your bloodstream. And when that happens, that leads to a whole cascade of kind of metabolism altering things, but also will signal then more insulin. And then that signal of more insulin also signals, hey, by the way, go ahead and store a little extra fat while you're at it. So who knows? Some people think that this came about, from our primitive days where we were cavemen and menopause was not the time to be going out and hunting and gathering. So it's almost like our bodies are, hunkering down for that long winter where it is going to be very conservative with how it expends calories, and it's actually going to do things in favor of storing fat. So this is kind of what we're dealing with as we start to go into these very natural hormone changes. So, Dr. Carey, do you want to kind of expand on that, talk about what we do with our exercise and the losing muscle that contributes further?
Yeah, as we age, we are losing muscle mass. And so that's contributing also to the insulin resistance that Dr. Stephanie was talking about. And so the other thing is the microbiome, our microbiomes change as we get older as well. And the microbiome is so important in terms of hormone production. And so here we are trying to do all the same things we used to do. No pain, no gain, work out, do all this really hard exercise, but actually that's causing us a stress. So the other thing is with these decreasing progesterone and estrogen, our cortisol is then going up. And so that's also causing fat to be stored in the belly. And so things like exercising too much, which is what we always thought we should do. And we hear all the time women who are saying, I'm just doing the exact same things I used to do. It's not working. I'm eating less. When you eat less too, this is causing a stress in the body, causing cortisol to be released, and then the fat to be deposited around the belly. So it's not fun in this age group and at this age time because we feel like we're pulling our hair out, especially during that perimenopausal time when we've got these hormones that are going up and down and up and down, and they actually affect our mood as well. So that we have the correlation with estrogen and progesterone to serotonin, which is a feel good, happy hormone, as well as dopamine and GABA, which are more relaxation, well, happy as well as relaxation types of hormones. And so when estrogen and progesterone are going all over, then those happy hormones, relaxation hormones are going all over. So we can get to feelings of depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, all of these things as well. And we're like, what's going on? I never used to be like this. It's just the natural cycle of our hormones, but we can do some things about that as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Dr. Carey, as I hear you talk about this, it sounds like really bad.
It does.
So, and I think it is really bad sometimes, but there's definitely hope. There's definitely that light at the end of the tunnel, and you don't even have to wait till you get to the end of the tunnel. Like there's sunroofs all along. So, yes. One more thing I wanted to bring up on the muscle mass, as we are aging, we naturally, unfortunately, lose muscle mass. And so one of the things, muscle is something that really naturally um, is just like a sink tank for our glucose. So our muscles, even if taking a walk, we use a lot of glucose whenever our muscles are being used. And so when we have less muscle mass, that is a further contributor to our insulin resistance and our relatively, kind of higher glucose status. So we'll get into it, but obviously continuing to build muscle is just a wonderful, wonderful trick. Um, Also, as we continue to build muscle, it's going to help increase our testosterone levels naturally. So those are a couple of things. And Dr. Carey touched on the microbiome. There are very specific things there are bugs in our microbiome that support a healthier, more robust metabolism. There are certain strains, that contribute to our estrobolome, and that is the part of our microbiome that's responsible for hormone metabolism and processing. So just to know that, you're not going crazy. And I have heard it too, where patients have said, I ate exactly the same thing, and this month I literally gained 8 pounds or 10 pounds. And I believe them. And it's because you're eating exactly the same thing, but your muscle mass is deteriorating a bit, your cortisol levels are increasing a bit, and your insulin resistance is increasing. So, under that kind of situation, that's how the weight gain can come. So, luckily, we are in a position to make changes. And do you want Dr. Carey to talk about the chronic stress and belly fat?
Oh, yes.
That slide there, I think another situation where a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is a time, whether it's menopause itself or other things going on in our life, a lot of times it's the time of teenage kids and aging parents, or maybe job stresses and whatnot, and sleep issues, or maybe just honestly not prioritizing our sleep, right? Because you could get away with it before. But all of those things can add up to stressors in our body. And Dr. Carey's going to go over how that directly increases the belly fat issue.
Yes, and a lot of this, some of this we had already talked about, but basically, stress is doing all the things that we talked about are naturally happening. So,
Hmm.
stress decreases estrogen, decreases progesterone, increasing testosterone, increasing stress hormones. So, these things are increasing the belly fat. And then here we talked about the stress hormones and how this is increasing our cravings then for all those high calorie foods, all those snacky empty calorie
Hmm.
or empty calorie, I mean empty nutrition type of foods. And
Full calorie, empty nutrition.
yes, exactly, exactly. So then we're increasing our insulin and cortisol, which, as Dr. Stephanie explained, then is going right into increasing fat storage, and especially around the belly, which is what we are not wanting. So stress
Hmm.
is a huge kind of factor over the natural things that are happening in our bodies and making it worse. So you can probably see where this is going, that decreasing your stress is going to help offset some of these things.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't know about you, but I am ready to get into the solutions for all of this. So yes. So there are some really great solutions, and I'll just start with the exercise part. When it comes to that, doing things like more walks, like obviously you still want to get your cardio in. And it's not that you can never really, peak out in your cardio, but that should be, for shorter spurts, and with rest in between. But really the focus is more towards, getting in good walks and then really focusing on weightlifting. I definitely recommend, if you're not familiar with weightlifting, working with a trainer, or someone more experienced initially. Because, of course, with any of this, if you injure yourself, that just sets you, steps backwards as well. So we want to be doing it smart. We want to be doing it gradual. It could seem like the most kind of easy, non-helpful exercise, but it's really important to start there and see how your body responds, see where you are and, a soreness level the next day, and hydrating well through the whole process too. And just another side note, there has been studies done on the role of walking versus high intensity aerobic exercise for osteoporosis and bone fracture. And what they found is the group that was walking about 30 to 60 minutes 4 times a week actually had less fracture risk than the group that was doing that real high impact exercise. So don't feel like just because it's less that it's less for you. Um, and I think the next slide that we're going to bring up is really going to, hit that message home too. So, yeah, Dr. Carey, do you want to talk about mindfulness,
Mhm.
and then the meals and that how that factors in?
Yes. So let me share my screen here. And
Yeah.
then also before that, just to talk also again about the walking and the intensity thing, how we used to think it's just, really, really push, 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 make it really hard. It really is stressing the body. And so again, that's your body saying, it's not saying, oh, this, I have to do this. So I'm not going to put out my
Mhm.
stress hormones. It considers that a stress. So we have to tone that down, and walking again with those studies, it's just showing that that is a better form of exercise, especially around this time when our hormones.
Yeah, and it's something you can do any time of day. Like if you were going to do a more cardio intense exercise after 4 or 5 p.m., that really could lead to some insomnia later in the night.
Yes,
So I remember I used to do intense workouts at 8 p.m. And
exactly.
no, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. Yep. And things like walking, it doesn't have to be all at once. So it can be,
Right. Hmm.
park far away and walk in, or use the stairs instead of the escalator or elevator. So this could be, or getting up from your home computer at doing your work at home and taking a walk around the block. So it doesn't have to be all at once, too.
Yeah,
So,
we are a migratory species, a migratory, you know, person, and just staying in one place is not serving our body. We were definitely designed to walk.
yes,
So, yeah.
point. Yeah. Okay, so here is the slide that's showing the different factors that have to do with metabolism. And I'm giving props and credit to Dr. Jay Tita here about that. He talks about these different things that have to do with metabolism. And you'll see that mindfulness is the biggest block of everything. So it's not what you're eating, it's not exercise is under metabolics. Movement is more like just the walking that we were talking about. So you can see how the movement, just the walking, is bigger than that exercise block here.
Hmm.
Mindfulness is the biggest for sure. So that is talking about stress reduction. But go ahead. hmm Read it. Say something.
No, I just love that how really the message is to do less. If you want to weigh less, do less.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
so
Yeah.
counterintuitive, you know. I mean, I
Yes,
grew up in
yes.
the 80s and 90s. It was like no pain, no gain,
Hmm.
get on your aerobics gear and go, go, go type of thing. So,
Hmm.
and it's a little bit more doable for younger folks, but for in this, especially in this age range, it's not what we're trying to aim for in order to be the healthiest that we can be. So
Yeah.
mindfulness for sure, rest, recovery, relaxation. So this is like instead of getting up at 5 a.m. and doing the hard workout, sleep, especially if that's what you feel like you want to do. So
Hmm.
sleep or have spa days with your friends. That's another thing
Hmm.
is the community is a big thing that's helpful
Hmm.
for to counteract those stress hormones. So these types of things, just anything that's rest, relaxation, read a book, do something creative. So if you like to paint or make jewelry or dance or play an instrument, any of these things are really going to help bring down that cortisol and stress level. And again, this just even meditation, being present, mindful awareness, being present during your day, breathing, yoga, those types of things. So the things that where you're kind of going, and relaxing and enjoying yourself. So think about those
Yeah,
things you're doing because it really makes a big difference here.
absolutely. So, Dr. Carey, if I can ask, how much quiet time do you allow yourself in a day?
Gosh, I'd have to do like a time thing. I get mine usually after people are going to bed or doing their own thing. Basically,
Hmm.
we have our own thing, and also in the morning. That's the
Hmm.
two times that I do it. So probably about an hour at night winding down and another half an hour in the morning, I would say. But I would say quiet time. I mean, that then walking the dogs is another half an hour. Um, I mean, I guess I could consider the ideal thing to do is when you're eating to not be on your phone, talking on the phone,
Hmm.
not watching TV. So that can be also a quiet time. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You.
do. Even with meals, I do love to just kind of ground my feet down on the floor and just take a few deep breaths and just, have gratitude and just tune into the moment. And I think that just helps with eating too, right? And digesting and how much food you optimally take in at any given meal.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do like those morning times and then the evening too. It gets a little easier when you don't have
Yeah.
young kids, but
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
When they're
shower times can be, a solid 10 minutes of
Yeah.
solitude. So,
Baths. Yep. Bath times.
yes,
All those
100%.
things. Yep. And so
Yeah.
some of these other things we'll get into in other talks for sure.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of wrap this up too, just drawing to the importance of metabolic resets. So, I think the crash and burn mentality of like starving yourself and then you kind of indulge and starving and that can kind of wreak havoc on your metabolism. But a thought out, supported, nutritionally supported fast that's designed, to really increase fat burning, that can be a big benefit and give you a big boost if you feel like you're just in a rut and not able to kind of get going with it, get going with your goals. And then we're gonna devote a whole nother talk to this, but also the importance of supporting your detox pathways as you are losing weight, because just the way it is in our modern world, we do tend to store toxins in our fat cells, just things that we're, exposed to. And as the fat cell is shrinks, a lot of times some of those toxins are then released out into our system. So that can be another issue. If you're losing weight, but then not supporting the detox of ridding yourself of those things, those harmful chemicals, that can set up just, more havoc and frustration for you too, and not reaching your goals. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
we will go into definitely in more detail because that's kind of a sneaky hidden issue too. Yeah, anything on intuition with this, with eating, weight loss, all the things?
Yeah, I think all that's very important for everything to really listen to your body to see
Mhm.
what's working because we're all individuals. And so what one person does might not work as well for the next person
Mhm.
because their personal makeup and biology, genetics might not work as well with that particular treatment or recommendation. So really always listening to how you feel when you're doing things. And this goes down to even eating something. If you eat something that's feels not good somewhere in your body, then it probably, even though it's not causing anything toxic, it could cause some disruption. So you could just have a little experiment and see when you remove that thing from your system. And then also paying attention, things that you think you like or that please you, and that could be high sugar things. Well, really
Mhm.
see how that feels when you're doing it, because it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting when you tune in. It might taste good going down, but then how does it really feel? I know for me, when I
Mhm.
do high sugar, high processed sugar types of things, I get this zing, like my nervous system is going,
It's in shock.
yeah, like what is this stuff? So it's interesting just to pay attention, and you can do that by eating silently. Sometimes that's always interesting, and another way to
Mhm.
to ground and unplug from your electronics and the world for a little bit. Be mindful while you're eating.
Yeah, it's hugely important because oftentimes, even if you are having a treat, the fourth and fifth bite probably isn't as satisfying as the first bite.
Mhm.
And when you're having a treat, that's the whole purpose, is because you're enjoying it or to enjoy it. So I think really if you're gonna do it, I had a naturopath once tell me, if you're gonna eat chocolate cake, do it slowly with a big smile on your face.
Ah, that's good.
Because you don't want to just like rush through that or not be aware and you're not even enjoying it, and it just kind of, backfires on your goals and you didn't even enjoy it. So
Yeah.
I think that is hugely important. And I follow a lot of the 80-20 rules, like doing all the good stuff 80-90% of the time, and then your splurge is 10 to 20. I think that being said, sometimes elimination diets can be good for people. If you have something, if there's dairy or if there's gluten that's just chronically feeding into inflammation in your system, removing those for a while. It doesn't have to be your whole life, but just for a while to see. That can really be very insightful as well. But our take home message is really, do what works for you, have an open mind, be willing to explore different things, and be willing to do less.
Yeah, and notice your body as you're doing everything. Be aware of how you're reacting, not only with food, but exercise.
Mhm.
I mean, if someone just hates being on the treadmill, that's going to be counterproductive too. So it's a
Mhm.
stressful thing to be doing something you don't want to do. So that's
Mhm.
also even things like what relationships are you in? What things are you doing in your spare time? Are you all of
Mhm.
that stuff is that may really causing you to feel joy on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all good stuff. I mean, it's just a time, it's not just the belly fat, it's a time to look at, everything.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Yeah. The belly fat's just the trigger
Yeah,
thing to,
that gets our attention, right?
yeah, it does. That's right.
Yes.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
for
Well,
spending
thank you,
time
Dr.
with
Karen.
us. Yes. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Steph. All right. Till
All
next
right.
time. Bye.